Welcome to the course on production, or as we like to call it, the Inspired Delivery System. So over the next several videos, we are going to break down the production system, the Inspired Delivery System, with Floor Coverings International. Now, you'll find that as we go through this, that production is really nothing more than project management. At the end of the day, managing installers is really nothing more than project management. And so we're going to invoke some basic project management tools. Before we dive into the nitty gritty, though, I do want to spend a minute with you and just simply do a quick overview. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at the 7 stages of the customer journey. Now, you've seen this before. Customers typically start with some awareness that they have a floor, right? They know they have a floor, and at some point they have a felt need. And that felt need might have to do with damage that they have on their current floor. They just don't like the color anymore. Maybe they've had some pet accidents that have stained the carpet, or maybe their hardwood floor is damaged, scratched in some way, and so they have this need that they want to change the look of their home. They want to change their floors, and so they ultimately make contact with Floor Coverings International, either through the website, through a Facebook page, through the call center, through a home show, whatever it is, right? Well, I would argue that these first 3 steps are 100% marketing, right? This is all about getting customers into your front door, so to speak. The next stage is the consultation phase. And this is really, when we think about the consultation phase, this is really the sales portion of the customer journey from our side, right? This is where we're meeting with the customer, we're walking them through different options, and ultimately they pick a floor that they absolutely love and deserve. Well, once they've done that, we have to produce it. We've got to install that floor. So production is all about the delivery phase, the confirmation phase, and to some degree, the residual meaning phase. So by delivery, I don't just mean the physical delivery of the material. I mean, you're delivering on all the promises that were made. So when sales said, we're going to remove the old carpet, we're going to put in this hardwood floor, we're going to change the trim, we're going to move the furniture, these are the things that we're going to do. Now we deliver on all those promises in production. Well, this is why we call it the Inspired Delivery System, because you're truly delivering on the promises that were made. Confirmation, we do something that's a little different than a lot of other companies. A lot of other companies will simply call the customer when the job is done to see if everything was okay. We like to go back to the home and physically take a look at it with the customer and give the customer the opportunity to really enjoy the floor by pointing out the things that they absolutely love. And if there is some little thing that needs to be taken care of, we take care of it. Residual meaning, so there's a lot of marketing that goes into residual meaning. This is where you can do like a drip campaign every 6 months to basically remind the customer what a great experience they had with Floor Coverings International. But it all starts with what the install looked like. You'll find that with a lot of your reviews, the reviews typically don't say, oh, you guys did a great sales job on me. Most of the time, the reviews talk about what a wonderful install process it was and how the installers did a great job. And so a lot of the residual meaning, even though, again, I think getting the benefit of residual meaning leans into the marketing side of it, having it set up so that the customer can really enjoy their floors and enjoy the fact that they chose Floor Coverings International really does lie on the shoulders of production. So a simple question to ask: why is it important to have a strong production process? And there's a lot of different reasons. As you're thinking through this, as you're watching this video, I'm sure that there's some things that have already come to mind. Why would you want to have a strong production process? I'm just going to list 6, but we could list 60. One reason is, like we talked about, reviews, right? I want to have great online reviews. I want to get referral business. I want this customer to talk about the wonderful job we did to their neighbors, and those neighbors talk to other neighbors. I want people to be excited about what the experience was like, so that they can go out and write a great online review. If we have a weak production process and the production side of things is just horrible, then people are going to write that. If we have a great production process and people are thrilled with it, then that's what they're going to write. One might get you a 1-star review. A great experience should get a 5-star review. Another reason to have a strong production process is to give your design associates confidence. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, for those of you that have been in sales before, you already know this. If you've never been in sales before, a salesperson really only has their credibility. A salesperson doesn't produce anything. They don't make anything. They really can't deliver on the production process. It is truly about their credibility. And so if a design associate, if they know that they're selling for a company that just can't deliver on the promises, it really affects that design associate's confidence and therefore affects their ability to sell. But if the design associate knows without a shadow of a doubt that if they sell a job, that the production process is going to stand behind their promises and they are going to deliver on the promises that were made, then that DA can go out and just absolutely knock the cover off the ball and do a great job in sales. Another reason to have a great production process is simply to keep your promises, right? To give the customer a great brand experience. So you want to have a reputation in the market that we keep our promises. You want to have a reputation in the market that it's a great brand experience. Okay, a lot of that comes back to a strong production process. Another reason would be to control costs. Okay, so far we've sort of talked about the soft and fluffy side. Let's get down to brass tacks. If you estimate a job and you've estimated that it should cost you $5,000 to do this job, and therefore you quoted the customer $10,000 at a 50% margin, if you come in at $5,000, good for you. You controlled the cost, you estimated it correctly, and that's exactly what it was. But if you come in and you spent $7,500 to produce this job, while technically you didn't necessarily lose money on the job, you absolutely lost margin. And that's a big deal. And so you really need to be able to control cost. And a great way to control cost is to have a strong production process. So let's take an example. I was out writing appointments with a franchise owner, and the two of us were together, and we had set up a bunch of appointments on the particular day. That morning, I helped load up the install for a job that was going to happen that day. And during the day, the installer called and said, hey, we're missing a wax ring. Well, if you don't know, a wax ring is a little ring that goes underneath the toilet. Part of this job was in a bathroom, so when the toilet came out, they had to reinstall it, and they needed a new wax ring. Oddly enough, that this franchise owner had an entire case of wax rings in the warehouse, but the warehouse was an hour away from where the job was. We were an hour and a half away from where the job was and had another appointment to run. And so the franchisee simply asked the installer, hey, can you run to the store and buy one? Yes, I'll buy one, but it's going to be a trip charge. So for the sake of a $10 wax ring, the franchise owner ended up paying a $50 trip charge so that the installer could leave the job site and go get this wax ring. If there had been a strong production process in place, that wax ring would have been on the truck. And so I know that it seems like a silly example, but the reality is you have to be organized in production so that you can control costs. What's another reason? Well, it's a lot less stress. If you know that when you sell a job that your production team is going to be able to produce it for you, if your design associates know that when something gets sold that it's going to get produced, it's a lot less stressful. And it allows you to spend your time selling. Now, maybe you get to a point as a franchise owner where you're not doing not maybe, but when you get to a point where you're not doing the day-to-day appointment type of routine, you're still selling your business. I mean, you're out there networking, you're out there marketing, you're out there doing your thing. You really need to be able to focus on the top of the funnel. You really don't need to spend a ton of time getting into the weeds around production. And as a result, you should be able to spend more of your time selling, whether that means going appointment to appointment and actually selling floors, or it means that you're selling your business in a sense by going out and networking and doing the things that you need to draw in local leads. If you have a strong production process, it allows you the time to be able to do that. All right, so what's the point? Well, here's the point. We want to create a branded production process, and that's important. It really does need to be branded. We need to continue to remind the customer that they're working with Floor Coverings International. We need to create a branded production process that prioritizes the customer experience. Okay, we're going to prioritize the customer experience and make sure that the customer has a great experience through production. And it maximizes the efficiency of the sales and the operations team. And you'll notice that we started with the sales side first, because ideally, when a salesperson sells a job, they can simply hand that job over to production, allow production to run the job, and they can get back to selling. And yes, we need to maximize the efficiency of the operations team so that we're controlling cost and who knows, maybe even picking up a point or two in the production process. So what's the key? Well, production, there's a ton of tools. Let's face it, there are a ton of tools to be able to manage projects. But there are three fundamental keys to having a strong production process. And the first one is making sure that you have a disciplined process to make sure that all the materials and all the instructions are on the job site when they need to be there. So if you're installing a hardwood floor, all the hardwood's there, the underlayment's there, any trim that you need or transitions, everything's there when it needs to be there. If you're installing carpet, you got the carpet, the pad, any tack strips you need, anything that you need for the job is there when it's time, right? And when it needs to be there. The second piece of the puzzle is making sure that the right people are there at the right time. Well, who are the right people? Well, the right people might be in the installer. Maybe for this job, you need to call in a plumber or an electrician, or maybe there's a finished carpenter involved. That's great. But whoever it is that needed to be there, when the project is being managed, the project manager makes sure that the materials are there at the right time and that the right people are there at the right time. Speaking of the project manager, we need to make sure that the right person is managing the project. So who is the right person? Generally speaking, that is not the design associate. I recommend that you keep design associates out of the production process. I know that there are seasoned franchisees that allow their seasoned design associates to manage production as well. But I would argue that most of the time it's best to let the salespeople do sales and let the production people do production. Your design associate's best value to you is bringing in revenue, and they can't do that if they're driving around town looking for transition pieces. So it is probably best to let the design associates just do sales and let your production person, whether that's an office manager or a production coordinator or whoever is wearing that hat, let them be the one that's actually managing the job. So as we dive into the Inspired Delivery System, there are 9 key things that we're going to look at over this course. The first thing is going to be what needs to happen at the point of sale to set yourself up for a great production experience. Okay, so there are things that happen when the design associate is in the home. There are things that the design associate can already do to set you up for success. Secondly, what does it mean to be prepared for a job? Right? What are the things that need to happen in advance of the job to make sure that we're prepared to do this job? How do we stay organized? And what does it mean to run an organized production process? What does it mean to communicate? Communicate with who? To communicate with the installers, to communicate with the design associate, to communicate with the customers. Who is it that needs to be communicated with, and what does that look like? Material delivery. So what does it mean to actually get the materials delivered to the home? Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about installation and what does it look like to manage the installation and to manage the installers. Finally, we'll go through what does it look like when a job is finished, what's the final walkthrough look like, and how do you close out a job. So I'm looking forward to working through this production module with you. As you look at the material that we've got coming up, this is going to be a big module. It is a module that as you go through your initial training, you may pick up some things, and these might be courses that you want to bookmark and come back to later. Once you get into production and you start managing jobs, there are certain tools, there are certain documents, there are certain resources that are available to you that today maybe they don't sink in the way that they should. But remember, you can always come back and you can go back through these modules and you can go back and pick up the tools that maybe they didn't sink in the first time, not because you're thick, but simply because it's not relevant yet, right? Most of the time, things as adult learners, most of the time we don't pick things up until we need them. So just keep in mind that you can always come back to this. You can always go back through the modules. You can always pick things back up that maybe you didn't quite get the first time. Again, I look forward to working with you. This is going to be a big module. There's a lot of information to cover here, but I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to going through these with you.